take this recording and then, okay. So I've started
Sure.
recording. So to start with, TOSCA has basically 4 parts, which I generally say to everybody. TOSCA Commander. TOSCA Commander is the core of TOSCA, where you write your test cases, where you execute your test cases, where you capture the test objects. Okay. TOSCA Executor is a functionality given by TOSCA that if you want only the test cases to be executed in some machines, then you can install TOSCA Executor, and from one master slave concept, you can get the TOSCA Executor done. Okay. TOSCA XScan, this is the application by which we capture the test objects of various types of application. Okay. And this is how, where you will have a difference when you are capturing web objects. Web means web test objects, SAP application, desktop based application, Power Builder application. So that depends upon TOSCA's XScan only.
Okay.
And then you have something called test repository. Anything which you create in TOSCA gets stored in the backend as a database entry. Okay. So
Okay.
generally when you do anything, create a test object or a property or anything, that gets stored in the database. Moving on, this is the sectional view of TOSCA. You can see there are multiple tabs, right?
Yes.
Test cases, modules, requirements, test case design, execution, issues, configuration, test planning. These are the various sections of TOSCA which allows you to perform specific task in that particular section. To be frank, by the name only you can understand test cases section. That means you create your test cases here, you modify your test cases, do all the logic on the test case so that it becomes much more robust. Okay?
Okay.
Module section.
Yeah.
This is the place where you will be capturing the test object and its properties. Okay. So now
Okay.
once you have captured the test objects, you can use your test objects in the test cases section. Okay. So that is what module section does. Requirement section, name suggests you create your requirement. I'll keep I keep you all on the mute. You can unmute yourself whenever required to ask question. Okay.
Yeah. Fine.
Okay. So, okay. Requirement section, if I say, you create your requirements here, and under the requirements, you create your test cases. Okay. Not create, link your test case. Test case design section is a unique feature of TOSCA. Okay. Unique feature of TOSCA, and I believe there is no other tool in the market which does this particular activity which test case design does. And I would not be able to give you a overview within this demo session. All you need to understand, test case design allows you to create data-driven testing very easily. Within 2-3 clicks, you can create multiple loads of test cases with the input of different sets of data. That is where test case design comes into picture. You have execution section. Any test case which you have created in the test cases section, you can drag and drop and you can run it in execution section. Issue section is something like defect section of ALM, where you can create your defect and those defects can be linked to the any runs of the execution. Okay. Configuration section allows you to do some configuration at a central location and it can be mapped to multiple machines also. Test planning section, a section which has been introduced from 12 version onwards. This is mostly for the test leads or managers. They can do the planning of how they want to run the project. So if people who have worked already on ALM and all, so they might understand the correlation, that there is
So,
some bit of correlation. Yeah, go ahead.
so 1 second. So what is ALM?
ALM is Application Lifecycle Management Tool, and that is the quality center.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah.
So that is a test management tool widely popular throughout the world. Okay.
Okay. Yep.
So now let's move on. Now in the test planning section, what TOSCA says that you create your session. Can you see? I created a project called test cases X browser. Under that, for that project, I have assigned certain users. That users, I'm assigning some tasks. Can you see? Dusan Scott has got 15 tasks. The moment he completes his task, the moment he completes his task, he will be the status will automatically get updated here. So that is called test planning section. This is mostly used by the managers and the test leads to assign tasks to the people. Okay, there is not much uses of this. You can plan your things in such a way, test managers or test leads can plan the things in such a way that I want to complete the session. I have to start the session now and complete at what time, and what is the current status, how much percentage it has been completed, and which task has been assigned to whom, which of the task has been completed by which of the persons. So these all things can be done, but again, there are tools in the market which can do the similar sort of thing very efficiently, like JIRA, and no one would like to invest much money, too much of money, just for doing the planning activity, mostly in case of managers and leads. So this section is not so popular section of TOSCA, but yes, since they are giving a big package, so they are allowing this particular facility. Now next section, if I go, that is requirement gathering. Okay, so requirement gathering, you can see you can create folders. Under the folder, you can create a requirement set, that is a bunch of requirement. And under the requirement set, you should create a requirement. Under the requirement, you can link your test case. You can say that there are lots of, what do you say, requirements. You can assign weights to the requirement so that you understand which particular requirement is more prioritized. And once you have assigned your weight, if you do the calculation, then it will say you that how many test cases there has been a linkage. That means what is the coverage percentage of this particular requirement. That means you have written a test case for the requirement. Okay, the moment you link that test case to the requirement, it will automatically come. Then you can also come to know from the requirement section, if you link the execution list, then you come to know what is your execution state. By clicking on that particular requirement set, you come to know that, okay, 7 test cases was allocated to this requirement set, and total requirements are 91 here. Out of 91, 7 has been run completely, 3 is failed, 1 is some error, and 80 has not been run. So some sort of metrics you can get it. One is the traceability matrix, one is the coverage matrix, one is the execution state matrix. So by looking at the requirement set, you can give this all details. Moving on. Now this is what I was talking about, test case designing. If you go test case designing, yeah, okay. I can see that there has been one person joined, Kathy. May I know, Kathy, who are you? Kathy, if you can introduce yourself, or we can continue if you wish. Okay, that's fine. I will continue. So this is the test case design section. In the test case design section, you can see that we have created some instances, we have created attributes, and in the attributes, we give the multiple sets of data. Based on the data, it creates n number of test cases. Okay, so you can say, as of now, this section is a little bit complex. I generally take this 2 classes to make people understand this test case design section. This section, as of now, you understand, helps to create multiple test cases with different sets of data using test sheets or Excel, or you also have an option to create using internal combinations. Okay. Now, test object identification. Mostly in most any tool, if you go, they have the or Selenium. If people already know, yeah. Was there any question? If not, I can continue. So, test object identification. So, if you see here, TOSCA gives you identify by properties. That is a by default option which TOSCA recommends. But there are cases when you are not able to identify by properties. TOSCA gives you other facilities which is not there present in any other tool. Identify by anchor, identify by index, identify by image. So these are other facility apart from the internal properties of the test object. If you go like QTP, only thing you will be getting identify by properties. If it is not identifying, then you have to make it as descriptive programming. In Selenium, you have to use like parent, sibling, those type of concept. Those similar sort of concept is identified by anchor, identified by image, and indexing is some other methods also by which TOSCA identifies the test objects very easily. And this
So
is, yeah, go ahead.
you mean to say that once we create the test case, once we design the test case, so we can opt for any of this identification like properties or anchor, and we can assign to that right particular test case.
See, the sequence of activities which happens in TOSCA is first you get a requirement. Under the
Okay.
for the requirement, you design your test case. And for the
Okay.
test cases which you have designed, you will identify the test objects, and
Okay.
the test objects will be mapped to the test case, and the
Okay.
test case will take the data from test case design.
Okay.
Okay,
So this all relates from the point one to it's in a
correct.
process. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Thank
Okay,
you. You can continue. Yeah.
so this is identify by anchor, identify by properties, identify by image. Okay, so these are the various methods by which TOSCA identifies the test object. Okay, if I move on now, somebody in the industry might have told you that TOSCA does not require any coding and all. If somebody says that, you can say no, TOSCA you can do coding. Okay, how you can do coding? There are two ways. Here I have replicated only VB script, but you can write a code in VB script and you can tell TOSCA what you need to do. Okay, and you can write a code in C sharp, compile it, and create a DLL file, and you can whatever is written in the C sharp code that can be run by TOSCA. Okay, so you can do coding in TOSCA. All you need to write a VB script and do all these things. Okay, so and why it is required? Because sometimes 90% of the time, not 90, I can say 95% of the time, whatever you scan or whatever modules has been provided by TOSCA, you can directly use them. Okay, now test scripting. Now, this is where you have lots of concept given by TOSCA to make your test case very robust. Okay, and that is what I was telling you, Siddharth, that TOSCA
Yeah.
is much way beyond what identifying the test object. Once you
Okay.
have identified the test object, you will be converting into the test case. But in the test case, you need to know what are the features by which you can optimize your test case. Whether your test case is allowed to have if condition or not. Yes, you have if condition. Can you see these screenshots?
Yes.
Whether the test case has a facility to do the looping. Yes, you have do loop and while loop, but you do not have for loop. Okay.
Okay.
Instead of for loop, they have given something called repetition. Can you see there is a folder with an arrow icon in a inverted fashion? So that
Yeah.
is repetition. Okay.
Okay.
Now, most of the programming people whom we know, what do? They write functions. So in the term, or they write methods in terms of Selenium and all. Same concept is being given by TOSCA to create reusable block. So you reuse the block every time. Okay. You also have a facility to create recovery scenarios. recovery scenarios are required. So even if you know how to identify the test objects, you need to know definitely that how these things are utilized in TOSCA, or how these things are done in TOSCA. Okay. So recovery scenarios are helpful. Let's say you want to run the test case in the night mode, means nightly batch runs, and some of the test cases fails due to some reason which you do not know. But in those cases, what you want to do, you want to recover your test steps, or you want to do a cleanup sort of thing. Cleanup in the sense that, let's say your test cases got stuck in the account screen. Okay. But next test case always starts from the login screen. So then what you need to do? You have to close the browser. Then only new test case will start freshly. So for those type of scenarios, we need to use recovery scenarios. Now, similarly, if I go for the template test case, you saw that I gave you an example of test case design. If you create a template test case, then only that template test case will be allowed to accept data from test sheet or from Excel sheet. And then you can create n number of test cases just with a click of one or two clicks. You can put conditions, you can change the flows. Those all things you can do using the template test cases where you apply the conditions. Okay. Okay. Sometimes you might have to put the breakpoints also. Breakpoints also. So breakpoints generally are not allowed as a debug point. It is not allowed in TOSCA. What you can do is you can add a manual step. You can add a manual step. Can you see break test? Break test I have just given. You add a manual test step, it will automatically tell you manually pass that particular test case. So if somebody says, can we have a combination of manual test step and an automated test step in TOSCA? Yes, you can do that. But can any other tool do that? No, you cannot do that. Okay. Okay. Now, this is the test execution process. Test execution, anyhow, this is like when you have created your test case, you can drag and drop the test cases to the execution list. Execution list is the place where you drag and drop your test case, and that test case runs. For each and every run, there will be a log maintained telling that how much was the start time and the end time. You can, by setting one of the configuration parameters, you can run the same test case n number of times. So this will be useful mostly when you are trying to create a test data and all. Okay. Now, this is something you can also use test mandates to run the test cases in multiple machines. Okay, same test suite you want to run. Let's say you have 1,000 test case. 1,000 test case, if you run in one machine, what happens? It will take 2 days, let's say. But if you run it in 4 machines, you can then complete the whole execution in means half a day. So that is how you optimize or you run your test cases in multiple machines. For that, you need to create test mandates. You also have a concept of distributed execution that requires TOSCA server and all those things. Okay. Now, if I go for the reporting section of TOSCA is something like you can create reports and you can use the reports for any execution list or anything. So, but in order to create a report, you need to have a TOSCA query language. You need to understand TOSCA query language. So, because TOSCA query language allows you to create a data set and the reports will be created on top of that data set. Okay. And how the reports are created? By the list and label tool, which is integrated within TOSCA. Okay. You can download the report in any format because it allows multiple formats like PDF, Excel, Word document, and any ways. Okay. Moving forward, defect management. As I said, you create your defect. For that defect, you assign it to means you assign the runs For the runs, you assign the defect. That my defect was identified for this particular run where it failed. Can you see that wherever it fails, it makes a cross symbol. Wherever it passes, it makes a pass symbol. Can you see here? Green tick.
Yes, yes.
And here it will be a fail. So for the failed run only, you will have some test cases, defects assigned. Now, one of the beautiful features of TOSCA is test suite maintenance. Okay, so test suite maintenance is a lifesaver of TOSCA because you can query your all the artifacts in TOSCA, but querying a code which has been written in Selenium or maybe QTP is not easy. You cannot do that unless and until you might have created a mapping, or you might, let's say I want to know how many methods I have created. So then you need to write a custom code or anything, and then only you can find those things. Okay. But any person can write a query to know how many modules are there present in TOSCA. And let's say I need to modify 10 test cases. So even if I modify the 10, means identify 10 test cases out of 1,000 test cases, then I need to modify it one by one, one by one. But here, TOSCA gives a facility to do the bulk modifications. Okay. Now, real-time scenario, what happens? You are working on a particular page. Your friend is also working on the same page. Okay. To identify test objects. He created one module, you also created one more module. So what happens, you have created a duplicate module or a module for the same page, and it is in two different places. So what TOSCA says, do not do that type of thing. You merge the modules. Even if you do this type of mistakes, you have facility to merge those things. So what happens internally, whatever test cases you might have linked, that will automatically get interlinked. So there will be no impact on your test case even if you merge your modules. But in order to do that from any other tools and all, it will be little bit tricky. You have to be careful. Okay. Now, same thing can be done for the test sheets also, merging of test sheets and all. Okay. Now, test suite maintenance. This is also a test data management feature. So mostly in banking domain and all, they do not give you access to the database and all. Okay. So what TOSCA says that whenever a data is created in the runtime, store that data locally in some database, so that you need not have to query that database data from the database. Rather than you can query it from local database where you have stored the data. So that's why they have created this TDM concept. Okay, mostly in the banking, insurance, where they have sensitive data and all. Okay, so they have given this standard modules, TDM, create object, find single object, set attribute. Using these modules only, you can manage the data within the TDM and all. Okay, this is for the test data management. Okay, now how does TOSCA identify various types of applications? So Selenium identifies only web application. In order to for Selenium to work over different types of application, it will take different libraries. Here also libraries are considered as engines. Can you see? You have DB engine, you have console engine, common engine, Delphi engine, .NET engine. So these engines allow you to identify test objects of that particular application. Okay, of that technology. Okay, so here you can see SAP engine is there. So all the SAP test objects on the SAP application will be identified by this engine. So
Okay.
when you try to scan a SAP application internally, TOSCA will identify, since you have launched SAP application, so it will launch internally the SAP engine and make SAP engine ready to identify the test objects on that particular window where SAP is present. Okay. Similarly for HTML, like if a web page is there, then it will try to identify the web page with the HTML engine. Okay, anything which is for the desktop Win32 engine. Some forms and all that will be for WPF forms engine. So it will be identified by that. Host engine is for mainframes. Okay, moving forward. Most important thing whenever you do a end-to-end testing, sometimes you might require to query the database and check whether the data is present in the database or not. That facility is also there with TOSCA. You can do database testing with TOSCA. Okay. All you need to is call this particular DB expert module, and then you can use it. And then what are the different types you can do, like DB2, SQL, Teradata, anything. All you need is a connection string. You just fire a query, and based on the query, you just get the data in the form of rows and tables. You find out the data. Okay. Now, TOSCA also have facility to do ETL testing. ETL is extract, transport, transform, and load. ETL testing on large databases. For that, you would require TOSCA BI, and TOSCA BI is an external add-in for which you need to procure licenses. You cannot get it free. Okay, and you will not get anybody also to train apart from the Tricentis people. Okay. Web services testing. TOSCA has made life very easy by this web services testing. You need not have to do Groovy scripting. You need not have to do REST assured based Java test and Java library calls and all. You just scan your URL and then you parameterize what data you want to change, use those data, and then automatically the result will be coming back to you. From the data results which you have got, you select what data you want to verify, and that you can verify. Can you see that I've added one small test case here? Small test case here. That test case is what? N1 plus N2. I want to just get a response. I want to verify whether it is coming 14 or not. So this is very easy to use application, web services testing, and you can XML, JSON, OData, payload can be converted into modules in TOSCA. Okay. So web services testing is also facilitated. Yeah. Somebody wanted to ask some question?
No, so what about the integration testing? I mean,
Which testing? Sorry.
integration between two systems connect.
Okay. Integration between two systems, like you want to integrate JIRA with TOSCA, correct?
Yes, yes.
Or you want to integrate Quality Center with TOSCA, correct?
Both in, yeah, yeah.
Okay. So one thing which you need to be careful is that why you want to do the integration is because you need to ask that question to the management. Is that something which can be managed without integration? Then that is a suggested option. If not, TOSCA also has got a tool called qcintegration.exe. They have got some exe file by which you can do the integration, and JIRA integration also there is one utility which they have. So for these two tools, there is an integration utility which is already available. You can use it.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, fine.
Okay. So now cross-browser testing. So this is also the ask throughout the world, that you have built an application, built a web application, and you want to check whether your application behavior is same in multiple browsers, well, like Firefox, Chrome, and Internet Explorer. Okay, that you want to test it. So if you want to do that, TOSCA gives you a facility. Two types of facility TOSCA gives. You can scan your object also in 3 different browsers. One is uh, Firefox, and then Chrome and Internet Explorer. By default it is there. You can scan the test objects also. You can run the test objects also. All you need to create is one configuration parameter. You create it, and Internet Explorer, the moment you mention Internet Explorer, it will run on Internet Explorer. If you mention Chrome, it will run on Chrome. If you mention Firefox, it will run on Firefox. Only this small change is required. That's all. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, no, no. I said okay.
Okay, that's fine. So, TOSCA also gives you a facility to do mobile application testing, but not so matured section of, facility of TOSCA. Mobile application testing, mostly people prefer AppM and all, and here also you would require to connect the application and all. That is what mobile application testing. You can do mobile application testing. You also have some concept of load testing. You can do load testing. How TOSCA can do load testing is that they have connected or they have partnered with Flood.io, which is a cloud-based performance testing server. Okay, Flood.io, which is a cloud-based server where you can tell the users that how many users should be there, how much load should be there, what is the time of the load, how much time you want to use it. Based on your usage pattern, you will be charged. So this is an advantage for a organization because they need not have to maintain, like most of the people might know that for performance testing, the only tool in the market which is ruling is load runner. For load runner, you need to purchase licenses for whole year, and performance testing happens only once or twice a year. Okay, maybe if you have a very busy organization, then you can slot it, and then you can do performance testing for multiple type of applications. But if you see, if they are launching a web application, they need to do a performance testing. So that will happen once in a blue moon only. Only when all the functionalities are ready and tested, then only it will happen. For that, and again, one more disadvantage is you write your mostly QTP, we used to write the test script, and the same script needs to be rewritten in Java so that performance testing tool can understand that. But here, that things are not required. Whatever code you have written in whatever script you have created in TOSCA, same code, test case can be reused directly in load runner. Load runner, I'm telling this flood.io. That is the advantage. So this is also gaining momentum and people are using it. Now this is exploratory testing. This is a concept developed by TOSCA telling that if you are doing, let's say, if you want to do within fraction of time or within some small span of time, you want to do more testing, you can go for exploratory testing. You can ask all your testers to be at the same time, and all the testers will get an invite via exploratory testing that you perform whatever you want to do and whichever you want to do, but only capture all the results will be automatically captured by the tool and it will be saved locally. So let's say I am a person who wants to store the results of all the testers. So I will send an invite to all the testers. All the testers will perform activities on the screen, on their screen, and then I will get internally, I will get all the things mapped into my TOSCA machine. So that is a exploratory testing method. So that's it I have for the slides. And what I will be doing is I will pause the recording or stop recording.